Jack Miller leaned against the bar counter, counting his credits for the third time. 497. Not even 500. He sighed and took another sip of his cheap synthetic beer. The bitter taste matched his mood perfectly. The space station hummed around him. Outpost 7 was not a fancy place. It sat at the edge of human space, where rules were suggestions and people came to either hide or make quick money. Jack had come for the second reason. Now 6 months later, he was nearly broke. His ship, the Wanderer, needed repairs. His last cargo delivery had paid less than expected, and no one was hiring pilots for decent jobs. Just his luck, Jack finished his drink and was about to leave when loud voices from a nearby table caught his attention. 10,000 credits each. Easiest job we'll ever do, said a large man with a scar across his face. Exterminating some feline pests? Seems too good to be true, replied a woman with bright red hair and a heavy pulse rifle strapped to her back. Corporation wants that moon clean and ready for mining in 2 weeks. No questions asked, no paperwork filed, the scarred man said. Jack normally minded his own business. That's how you stayed alive in places like Outpost 7, but something felt wrong about this conversation. He ordered another drink and moved to a seat closer to the group of 5 tough-looking people. What about the authorities? Asked a younger man. The leader laughed. This far out? The company is the authority. They just need the pests gone with no official record. That moon has rich mineral deposits, worth millions. Jack's mind raced. Pest control jobs didn't pay 10,000 credits per person. And legitimate. Mining operations didn't avoid paperwork. Something was very wrong. When the group left, Jack followed at a distance. They headed toward the docking bay where a sleek black ship waited. The side of the ship displayed a logo Jack recognized: Stellar Resources Corporation, one of the biggest mining companies in human space. Later, in a dim corridor of the station, Jack approached Dan, a maintenance worker he had helped before. Need some information, Jack said quietly, sliding 200 credits across the table. Half of what he had left in the world. Don looked at the credits and then at Jack. Must be important. The moon near the Carcian system. What do you know about it? Don checked his datapad. Not much official info. Small moon, breathable atmosphere, not claimed by any government. He looked around and lowered his voice. But I've heard things, stories from traders. It's inhabited by who? Not who, what, some kind of cat people, peaceful types. Live in trees, primitive technology, locals call them the Filari? Jack felt sick. And Stellar Resources wants to mine there? Don nodded. Rich in neodymium and other rare minerals, very valuable. But getting proper permits for an inhabited world takes years and costs a fortune. So they're calling the natives pests and hiring mercenaries to exterminate them, Jack said, the words bitter in his mouth. You didn't hear it from me, Don said, pocketing the credits. Jack walked back to his ship, his mind in turmoil. He had seen this before. Companies finding valuable resources on worlds with native populations. Sometimes they went through proper channels. Other times, especially this far from Earth, they simply made the natives disappear. No natives, no need for expensive permits or profit-sharing agreements. Inside his ship, Jack checked his fuel levels and the navigation system. The Filari moon was only a day's journey away. He had just enough fuel to get there, but not enough to return to the station. He should mind his own business. He should look for work and try to rebuild his finances. That would be the smart thing to do. Instead, Jack found himself preparing for takeoff. 3 hours later, the Wanderer broke free from Outpost 7's docking clamps. Jack had spent his last credits on emergency supplies and information about the Filari. He had no plan, no backup, and no way home. Just a desperate need to warn the inhabitants of the moon before the mercenaries arrived. The journey took 26 hours. As Jack approached the moon, he saw why Stellar Resources wanted it. Scans showed rich mineral deposits just below the surface. A kind that could make a company billions. The moon itself was beautiful. Purple forests covered much of the surface. Crystalline lakes reflected the light of the system's sun. Jack's scanners detected small settlements in the treetops. No advanced technology, no defenses, no weapons. Landing in a small clearing, Jack prepared to meet the Filari. He brought no weapons. If they were as peaceful as Don had suggested, showing up armed would only frighten them. The air outside was fresh and sweet. Jack had only taken a few steps from his ship when he realized he was being watched. Looking up, he saw them among the trees. Slender figures with graceful movements. Just as Don had described, they looked like a perfect blend of human and feline. One of them dropped to the ground in front of him. A female with golden fur, pointed ears, and striking green eyes. She wore simple clothing made from local materials, and carried a wooden staff. Not a weapon, Jack noticed, but a tool. "Human," she said in surprisingly good English. "Why have you come?" Jack raised his hands to show he meant no harm. "My name is Jack Miller. I've come to warn you. Your people are in danger." The Filari studied him with those intense green eyes. "I am Kira. We have met humans before, explorers, researchers. They take samples and leave. You are different." "Other humans are coming," Jack explained. "Bad ones. They work for a corporation that wants the minerals in your moon. They don't care that you live here. They're going to try to kill you all." Kira's ears flattened against her head. "Why would they do this?" "We have harmed no one." "Because it's cheaper to eliminate you than to negotiate. They've hired mercenaries, professional killers. They'll be here in days." Kira gripped her staff tighter. "Why should we believe you?" "You are human too." Jack looked at his ship. "I spent everything I had to come warn you. My ship doesn't have enough fuel to leave. I'm stranded here, same as you." More Filari dropped from the trees surrounding Jack. They whispered among themselves in their own language. Jack waited, knowing how this must look from their perspective. A strange human arrives with tales of doom. Why should they trust him? Finally, Kira spoke again. "Our elder will want to speak with you. Come." As Jack followed Kira toward the trees, he wondered what he had gotten himself into. He had no money. No way off this moon, and in a few days a ship full of killers would arrive. Old because he couldn't mind his own business, but looking at the peaceful community in the trees, and the curious faces of the Filari, Jack knew he had made the right choice. Whatever happened next, at least these people would have a chance to prepare. It might not be much, but sometimes a warning was all the difference between slaughter and survival. Jack just hoped it would be enough. Jack followed Kira up into the trees. The Filari moved with grace, climbing the massive purple trunks as if they were walking on flat ground. Jack struggled to keep up, his human limbs not made for such movement. "Need help?" Kira asked, extending a clawed hand. Jack nodded, swallowing his pride. Kira pulled him up with surprising strength. Her fur was soft against his skin, but he could feel the powerful muscles beneath. The Filari village took Jack's breath away. Homes made of woven branches and leaves blended perfectly with the trees. Bridges of rope and wood connected everything. Children with fluffy tails played, chasing each other across swinging pathways. It was beautiful and completely vulnerable to attack. In the center of the village stood the largest structure, an open meeting hall with a domed roof. Inside, a circle of Filari elders waited. At their center sat Elder Mayara, her silver fur gleaming in the dappled sunlight that filtered through the leaves. "You bring a human to our sacred hall, Kira?" Mayara's voice was deep and musical. Kira bowed her head. "He brings warning of danger, Elder." All eyes turned to Jack. He felt small under their gaze. "Tell us, human," Mayara said. Jack explained everything: the mercenaries, the mining company, the planned attack. He showed them the data he had downloaded about Stellar Resources Corporation and their operations. "They call you pests," Jack said. "They plan to wipe you out and make it look like you never existed?" The elders whispered among themselves. One male with dark stripes spoke up. "Why should we trust you? Humans have come before with kind words, then taken our sacred crystals." Jack had no good answer. "I can't prove my intentions. I can only tell you what I heard. The mercenaries will be here in days. I've spent my last credits to reach you. My ship doesn't have enough fuel to leave." Mayara studied Jack, her yellow eyes seeming to look into his soul. Finally she nodded. I sense no deception in you, Jack Miller. But what would you have us do? We are not warriors. You need to prepare, Jack said. How many Filari can fight? Fight? Mayara seemed confused by the concept. We do not fight. The Filari have lived in peace for generations. Jack's heart sank. Then you need to hide. Is there somewhere safe? Caves? Underground shelters? Kira shook her head. The trees are our home. We know nothing else. Jack ran a hand through his hair. This was worse than he thought. The Filari had no concept of violence, no defenses, nowhere to hide. Then I'll teach you, he said finally. I'm not a soldier, but I know enough to give you a fighting chance. The next 3 days were the hardest of Jack's life. The Filari were quick learners, but had no natural aggression. Teaching them to fight was like teaching birds not to fly. It went against their nature. Kira became Jack's best student. She grasped the concepts of ambush and retreat quickly. Her natural agility made her perfect for the kind of guerrilla tactics Jack was teaching. Why do humans kill each other? She asked during a break in training. They sat high in a tree, watching other Filari practice with makeshift spears. Jack sighed. Power, money, resources, fear, pick a reason. And these mercenaries, they will kill us for money? Yes, some humans can separate themselves from what they do. They'll call you animals, pests. It makes it easier for them. Kira looked at her. Hands, so similar to human hands, yet covered in soft golden fur. Are we so different? No, Jack said. That's the problem. You're not different enough. By the 4th day, they had made progress. Jack had helped the Filari create simple traps and weapons. They had established escape routes and hiding places for the young and old. It wasn't much, but it was something. That night, Jack sat alone by his ship, using its systems to scan for approaching vessels. There was nothing yet, but he knew it was only a matter of time. He had also sent a distress signal to the only person in the galaxy he trusted, Samantha Collins, a retired Marine who owed him a favor. But Outpost 7 was far away, and Sam might not make it in time. Jack didn't hear Kira approach. She moved. Like a shadow. Your face is troubled, she said, sitting beside him. Just thinking about what's coming. Kira was quiet for a moment. The elders have been talking. Some want to leave, to find a new home. That might be wise. Others say this is our home. We should defend it, she looked at Jack. What do you think? Jack didn't have an easy answer. Running might save lives now, but where would you go? The corporation would find you eventually. Sometimes you have to stand and fight, even when the odds are bad. Like you did? Coming here to warn us? Jack laughed softly. That wasn't brave. That was me being stupid and broke. Kira touched his arm, her claws retracted. We have a saying. The true path is revealed when all others are blocked. You had nowhere else to go, so you found your true path to us. Before Jack could respond, his ship's alarm beeped. He jumped up and checked the scanner. A ship just entered orbit, he said, his voice tight. It's them. Kira's ears flattened against her head. So soon? You said we had more time. I was wrong. Jack grabbed the makeshift weapons they had prepared. We need to alert the village. As they ran toward the trees, a bright light cut through the night sky. The mercenary ship was descending. They're landing near the Crystal Lakes, Jack said. That gives us some time to prepare. Kira ran ahead, her movement fluid and fast. Jack followed, his mind racing. They had traps set, but not enough. They had trained, but not enough. Nothing was enough against a team of professional killers with advanced weapons. In the village, panic spread quickly. Filari mothers gathered. Their children. Elders prepared to evacuate to the deeper parts of the forest. Jack found Mayara organizing the chaos with calm authority. Jack Miller, she said, our scouts report the human ship has landed. They count 12 armed humans. More than I expected, Jack admitted. We need to stick to the plan. Evacuate those who can't fight. The rest will use the traps and ambush. Points we prepared? Kira appeared with a group of the strongest Filari, each armed with spears and bows Jack had helped them make. We are ready, she said. Jack looked at these peaceful beings, forced to become warriors overnight. His heart ached with guilt and admiration. They trusted him, followed his lead. He couldn't let them down. "Remember what I taught you," he said. "Hit and run, never stand and fight. Use the trees, they don't know this forest like you do." As the Filari moved into position, Jack heard the distant sound of engines. The mercenaries were coming. Mayara approached him, her face solemn. "Whatever happens, Jack Miller, you have given us a chance. The Filari will remember." Jack nodded, not trusting himself to speak. He picked up a spear and moved to join Kira's group. The battle for the Filari moon was about to begin, and Jack knew that many would not live to see its end. Dawn broke over the purple forest as Jack and Kira watched the mercenaries from high in the trees. The humans below moved with purpose, their black armor gleaming in the early light. They carried pulse rifles and wore helmets with thermal imaging. 12 of them, Jack whispered. 4 teams of 3, spreading out to cover more ground. Kira's tail twitched nervously. "They have powerful weapons." "But they don't know these woods," Jack reminded her. "Remember the plan. Spring the traps, then retreat. Don't try to fight them directly." Kira nodded and slipped away, moving through the branches without making a sound. Jack watched her go, worry knotting his stomach. The Filari were brave, but they were facing trained killers. Jack climbed down and moved to his position. The first trap was simple, a tripwire that would release a net of vines and weighted stones. Not enough to kill, but enough to slow the mercenaries down. He didn't have to wait long. 3 mercenaries approached, scanning the trees with their rifles ready. "No signs of life," one said. "Maybe they cleared out." "Orders are to sweep the entire area," replied another, a woman with short gray hair. "Keep moving." The leader, tall man with a scarred face, stepped forward right into the trap. The net fell, tangling all 3 mercenaries. They shouted in surprise and anger. Jack gave the signal, a bird call he had practiced with the Filari. Immediately, a rain of small darts fell from the trees. The darts were tipped with a mild poison the Filari used for hunting, enough to make someone sleep but not die. 2 mercenaries collapsed. The leader struggled free of the net and fired his rifle wildly into the trees. Jack ducked as energy bolts sizzled past him. "Contact!" the man shouted into his comm unit. "We're under attack, Sector 4. Jack knew they had to move. The other teams would come running. He slipped away through the underbrush, heading for the next ambush point. Across the forest, similar scenes played out. The Filari sprung their traps and retreated, just as Jack had taught them. 6 mercenaries were down before they even realized what was happening, but the mercenaries learned quickly. They stopped walking into obvious traps. They used their thermal scanners to detect Filari hiding in the trees. And they had no mercy. Jack heard screaming from the direction of the nearest Filari village. He ran toward it, his heart pounding. When he arrived, he found homes burning. 3 mercenaries were shooting at anything that moved. A group of Filari children huddled in a burning hut, too scared to run. Jack grabbed a fallen branch and charged. He caught the nearest mercenary by surprise, knocking him down. The other 2 turned their weapons on Jack. He dove behind a tree as pulse fire scorched the bark. He was trapped and outgunned. Then a flash of golden fur streaked from above. Kira landed on one mercenary, her makeshift spear piercing his armor at the shoulder joint. The man screamed and fell. The last mercenary aimed at Kira, but before he could fire, more Filari dropped from the trees. They overwhelmed him with sheer numbers, knocking away his weapon. Jack ran to the burning hut and helped the children escape. His hands were burned, and smoke filled his lungs, but he got them all out. "The young ones must get to the caves," Kira said, blood matting her fur. Not her blood, Jack realized. She had killed for the first time today. "Are you okay?" he asked her. Kira's eyes were haunted. "I took a life." I felt his fear as he died. Jack didn't know what to say. The Filari had an empathic ability. They could sense emotions. Every kill would hurt them in ways humans couldn't understand. "I'm sorry," he said finally. "I'm sorry I brought this to your people." Kira touched his face with a gentle paw. "You Didn't bring this, Jack. You tried to prevent it. A distant explosion rocked the forest. More villages burning. We need to fall back to the crystal caves, Jack said. We've hurt them, but they're regrouping. They gathered the survivors and headed deeper into the forest. The crystal caves were the Felari's most sacred place and their last line of defense. By midday, the remaining Felari had gathered at the caves. Jack's heart sank as he counted them. Less than half of what they had started with. Many were injured and all were scared. Elder Mayara sat at the cave entrance, her silver fur now gray with ash. Our homes are gone, she said simply. But our people live, Kira reminded her. Thanks to Jack's warning and training. Jack couldn't accept their gratitude. Not with so many dead, it's not over, he said. They'll track us here, as if on cue, his portable scanner beeped. They're coming, all 6 remaining mercenaries. They've joined forces. Mayara stood with dignity despite her age. Then we must use the crystals, Kira gasped. Elder, no. The sacrifice is necessary, Mayara finished. It is our way. Jack looked between them, confused. What sacrifice? What are you talking about? Kira led Jack deeper into the cave. Inside, massive crystals grew from the walls and ceiling, glowing with a soft blue light. In the center was a circle of smaller crystals. These crystals can amplify our empathic abilities, Kira explained. With enough power, we could project our emotions, make the mercenaries feel what we feel. Like a weapon? Jack asked. Like truth, Kira corrected. They would feel our fear, our pain, but also our love for our home, our harmony with nature. No human could keep killing after experiencing that. Then why haven't you used it already? Kira's ears drooped. The amplification requires life energy. The elders would need to sacrifice themselves to power it. Jack was horrified. There has to be another way. He thought hard, looking around the cave. The crystals reminded him of something. Of course. The power cells in his ship worked on a similar principle. They converted energy from one form to another. My ship, he said suddenly, the power core. It could work like your life energy power the crystals without anyone dying. Kira's eyes widened. Would that work? I don't know. But we have to try. They had little time. Jack ran back to his ship, which thankfully the mercenaries had ignored so far. He removed the power core, a dangerous procedure that could have killed him if done wrong. When he returned to the cave, the mercenaries were less than an hour away. With Kira's help, Jack connected the power core to the crystal formation. It was a crude setup, more likely to explode than work. Everyone get back, he warned. If this goes wrong, it could be bad. Jack activated the core. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the crystals began to glow brighter and brighter. Energy crackled between them, forming a web of light. It's working, Kira whispered in awe. The mercenaries were at the cave entrance. Jack could hear their footsteps. Now or never, he said, and pushed the power to maximum. The cave filled with blinding light as the crystals released their energy. Jack felt a wave of emotion wash over him, not his own feelings, but the collective experience of the Felari. Their joy, their pain, their fear, and most of all, their hope. If he could feel it this strongly, what would it do to the mercenaries? The wave of emotion hit the mercenaries like a physical force. Most of them dropped to their knees, their weapons falling from suddenly weak hands. Their faces showed shock, confusion, and then understanding as they experienced the collective feelings of the Felari. Only their leader remained standing, though he staggered back a few steps. His face twisted with effort as he fought against the empathic wave. What is this? He growled, raising his rifle with shaking hands. Jack watched from behind a large crystal. The power core was overheating, its warning lights flashing red. It wouldn't last much longer. 5 of the 6 mercenaries were on the ground now. Some were crying. Others stared at their hands in horror, as if seeing the blood on them for the first time. The empathic connection was making them feel what the Felari had felt: the terror of their homes burning, the pain of their wounds, the grief for their dead. But the leader was different. He had mental shields, either natural or technological. He fired his rifle at the central crystal formation. No. Jack shouted, diving toward the man. The shot went wide, hitting a smaller crystal that shattered into 1,000 pieces. Jack tackled the mercenary leader, and they both fell to the ground. The rifle skittered away across the cave floor. They fought, rolling among the crystals. The leader was stronger and trained in combat. He pinned Jack down, his armored forearm pressing against Jack's throat. "You ruined everything," the man snarled. "Do you know how much they were paying us?" Jack couldn't breathe. Black spots danced at the edges of his vision. He clawed at the man's arm without effect, then a flash of golden fur appeared above them. Kira leaped onto the mercenary's back, her claws digging into the gaps in his armor. The man screamed and released Jack, trying to throw Kira off. Jack rolled away, gasping for air. He saw the power core's warning lights turn from red to purple, the final warning before explosion. He had to disconnect it from the crystals before it blew up and took the entire cave with it. As Kira and the mercenary leader fought, Jack crawled toward the power core. His throat burned and his vision was still blurry. The core was hot to the touch, almost too hot to handle. Across the cave, the other mercenaries were beginning to recover from the initial empathic shock. But they weren't returning to their mission. Instead, they looked dazed, transformed. One woman removed her helmet and stared at it as if seeing it for the first time. "What have we done?" she whispered. Jack focused on the power core. He needed to disconnect it carefully or it would explode. His hands shook as he worked on the connections. Behind him, Kira cried out in pain. Jack turned to see her thrown against the wall by the mercenary leader. The man retrieved his rifle and aimed it at her. "Enough of this," he shouted. "I'm finishing the job." Before he could fire, another mercenary tackled him from behind. It was the woman who had removed her helmet. "No more killing," she said, her voice breaking. "I felt them. They're not animals. They're people." The leader struggled against her. "They're standing between us and a fortune. Get off me, Lin." Other mercenaries joined Lin, holding their leader back. The man shouted curses and threats, but he was outnumbered. Jack returned to the power core, one connection left. His fingers found the final coupling. He turned it carefully, holding his breath. The warning lights stopped flashing. The core began to cool down. Jack sighed with relief and carefully removed it from the crystal formation. The glow of the crystals dimmed, but didn't go out completely. They had absorbed enough energy to maintain a low-level empathic field. Kira limped to Jack's side, bleeding from a cut on her shoulder. "You're hurt," Jack said. "I'll heal," she replied, watching the mercenaries with caution. "What about them?" The mercenaries had subdued their leader, binding his hands with a cable from his own equipment. Lin approached Jack and Kira slowly, her hands raised to show she was unarmed. She struggled to find words. "What was that? What did you do to us?" "You felt what the Filari feel," Jack explained. "Their emotions, their lives." Lin nodded slowly. "I felt their fear, their pain, but also their connection to this place, to each other." She looked around the cave with new eyes. "I've never felt anything like it." The other mercenaries gathered behind Lin, their faces showing similar transformations. Only their leader continued to struggle and curse. "What happens now?" Kira asked. Lin looked at her fellow mercenaries, then back at Kira. "We can't complete this mission, not after what we felt, not after what we now know." "Stellar Resources won't accept failure," Jack pointed out. "They'll just send more mercenaries." "Not if they believe this moon is uninhabitable," said a tall mercenary with a deep voice. "We could report high levels of radiation, toxic atmosphere. No one would question it this far out. Survey data is often unreliable." Jack was surprised. "You would lie to your employers?" "What about your payment?" Lin looked ashamed. "We've already been paid half. It's enough." She glanced at the bound leader. "Most of us agree. We can't do this." Elder Mayara approached from deeper in the cave, where the other Filari had been hiding. Despite everything, she carried herself with dignity. "You have felt our hearts," she said to the mercenaries. "Now you understand. Life is precious, all life. Even those different from yourselves." Lynn bowed her head. We've done terrible things. Today, we can't undo that. No, Mayara agreed. But you can choose a different path forward. The mercenaries decided to leave, taking their leader with them. They would report that the moon was uninhabitable due to radiation discouraging stellar resources from sending anyone else. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it would buy time. As the mercenaries prepared to depart, a new sound filled the air, the rumble of another ship entering the atmosphere. More mercenaries? Kira asked, fear in her voice. Jack checked his portable scanner. A smile spread across his face. No, it's the Stargazer. Sam made it after all. Samantha Collins landed her ship in a clearing near the cave. She emerged wearing battle armor and carrying enough weapons for a small army, only to find Jack waiting for her with a grin on his face. You're late, he said. Sam looked confused. I thought you were fighting for your life against mercenaries. We were. It's a long story. Kira approached cautiously, eyeing Sam's weapons. Don't worry, Jack assured her. This is Samantha Collins. An old friend. She's here to help. Sam looked at Kira, then back at Jack. You made friends with cat people? They're called the Filari, Jack corrected. And yes, they're friends. Good ones, Sam shook her head. You always find trouble in the strangest places, Jack. She nodded to Kira. Any friend of Jack's is a friend of mine. With Sam's arrival came new hope. Her ship had communication equipment powerful enough to reach the proper authorities. The Filari would need official recognition and protection to truly be safe from corporations like Stellar Resources. That night, as the Filari began to rebuild their damaged homes, Jack sat with Kira and Sam, explaining everything that had happened. So the crystals made the mercenaries feel what the Filari feel? Sam asked, skeptical. And that changed their minds? Most of them, Jack said. It's hard to keep seeing someone as a pest when you felt their heart. Kira looked up at the stars. What will happen to us now? Jack wished he had a simple answer. The path ahead would not be easy. Even with the mercenaries gone, the Filari faced challenges. Their homes were damaged. Their way of life was forever changed by the violence. They had experience, but they had survived. And sometimes survival was enough to build a future on. 3 months passed. The purple forests of the Filari moon were healing. New homes rose among the branches, built with the help of human hands. Jack watched from a high platform as Filari children played below, their laughter filling the air. Their nightmares were becoming less frequent now. Sam approached, carrying 2 cups of a sweet Filari drink made from local fruits. Thinking deep thoughts again? She asked, handing him a cup. Jack smiled. Just enjoying the view. After the battle, Sam had used her ship's communication system to contact the Galactic Protection Council. The GPC was slow and often corrupt, but they had laws against genocide. With video evidence from Sam's ship and testimony from the mercenaries who had changed sides, they had opened an investigation into Stellar Resources. Any word from the council? Jack asked. Sam nodded. The preliminary ruling came through this morning. The Filari moon is officially recognized as an inhabited world with protected status. Jack let out a breath he felt like he'd been holding for months. So they're safe. As safe as laws can make them, Sam agreed. Stellar Resources is facing serious charges. Their stock is down 60%. Good, Jack said. He had no sympathy for the corporation that had tried to wipe out an entire species for profit. Movement in the trees caught his attention. Kira was climbing toward them, moving with her natural grace. These past months, she had become the leader of the Filari warriors, a new role created after the attack. The Filari were still peaceful, but they understood now that the galaxy wasn't always kind to gentle species. News from the stars? Kira asked as she joined them. Sam repeated the update about the council's ruling. Kira's ears perked up with relief. This is good news. The elders will be pleased. She turned to Jack. Will you tell them at the gathering tonight? The Filari were holding a special ceremony to mark the completion of the village rebuilding. Jack had been asked to speak as an honored guest. Of course, he said. Later, as the 3 suns of the system began to set, the Filari gathered in the new central meeting hall. It was larger than the old one, built with stronger materials and brought by Sam from off-world. The Filari were adapting, learning from humans while keeping their own ways. Elder Mayara stood in the center, her silver fur gleaming in the light of crystal lamps. Though aged by the ordeal of recent months, she remained strong and wise. Today we celebrate new homes, she said, her voice carrying to all corners of the hall. But more than wood and leaves, we celebrate new understanding, she gestured to Jack and Sam. Our human friends have shown us that the galaxy holds both danger and friendship. We have learned to defend ourselves, but we have not forgotten who we are. Jack felt uncomfortable with praise. He hadn't come to the moon to be a hero. He had come because he was broke and had nowhere else to go. But looking at the rebuilt village and the faces of Filari who might not be alive without his warning, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. Mayara continued. Jack Miller came to us as a stranger. He spent his last credits to warn us of danger. He taught us to fight when necessary, but also showed us that not all humans are enemies. The Filari applauded in their way, a soft purring sound combined with gentle paw taps. It was strangely moving. Jack Miller, Mayara said, the Council of Elders invites you to stay among us as our ambassador to the human worlds. Your home will be here, if you wish it. Jack was stunned. He looked at Kira, who was smiling. She had known about this offer. I don't know what to say, Jack managed. Say yes, Sam whispered, nudging him. Your ship is still broken, and you're still broke. It was true. Jack had given everything to help the Filari. His ship remained grounded, its power core now permanently integrated into the Crystal Cave system as a backup. He had no credits, no cargo, and no prospects elsewhere, but that wasn't why he wanted to stay. These past months, helping rebuild the village, learning the Filari ways, spending time with Kira, he had found something he never knew he was looking for. Belonging. I would be honored, Jack said finally. The Filari purred their approval after the ceremony. Jack and Kira walked to the edge of the village where they could see the night sky. Stars filled the darkness above them, countless worlds spinning. Through the void. You don't have to stay, Kira said softly. I know you humans like to wander. Some do, Jack agreed. I did for a long time. Always looking for the next cargo, the next payday, never staying anywhere long. And now? Jack looked at her. In the starlight, her golden fur seemed to glow. Now I think I've found something worth staying for. Kira's ears twitched with happiness. The elders believe your coming was meant to be. That the universe brought you to us when we needed you most? Jack laughed softly. I don't know about that. It was just bad luck and being broke. Perhaps. Kira said, her green eyes serious. Or perhaps it was the universe giving you a push in the right direction. Jack didn't have an answer for that. He wasn't sure he believed in fate or destiny. But looking back at the chain of events that had brought him here, overhearing the mercenaries, spending his last credits on information, making the desperate journey to warn strangers, it did seem like more than simple chance. Sam found them. There a while later. Thought you might want to see this, she said, holding out a data pad. On the screen was a news report about Stellar Resources. The corporation was facing not just legal charges but public outcry. The story of the Filari had spread, touching hearts across human space. People are listening, Sam said. The Galactic Protection Council is proposing stronger laws to protect non-human species. Your story is changing things, Jack. Not my story. Jack corrected. Their story. He nodded toward the Filari village. Our story? Kira said simply. The next day, a small transport ship arrived carrying council representatives. They brought official recognition documents and the first human researchers authorized to study Filari. Culture with permission and respect this time. Jack stood with Mayara and Kira as they welcomed the visitors. As the new ambassador, it was his job to bridge the two worlds, to help humans understand the Filari, and to help the Filari navigate human politics. It wouldn't be easy. There would always be those like Stellar Resources, seeing only resources to exploit. But now the Filari had protection, knowledge, and allies. As the visitors toured the village, one researcher asked Jack, How did you end up here so far from human space? Jack smiled. I spent my last credits on a warning that no one else would deliver. It was the simple truth. One desperate choice had changed everything for the Filari, for Jack, and perhaps for relations between humans and other species across the galaxy. Sometimes the universe needed just one person willing to spend their last credit on something that mattered.